Hi everyone, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. This is Melanie, and today is going to be my wrap-up for my Use Your Scraps series. And I am pretty happy with what I have accomplished, although I have to admit I did do a purge at the end. I just didn't seem to be making as big of a dent in my scraps as I would like, and so I did opt to do some purging. Primarily of solid cardstock, and mostly because I have so much cardstock, like full 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, that I don't think I will ever go through that in my lifetime, especially because I've changed the way that I make cards and don't use as much cardstock as I used to use. So basically I went through all my cardstock and basic plain cardstock and purged a bunch. So let me walk through what I have left and kind of my thought process on that. So first of all, this bin here is one that I got from Target. It's one of those basket weave plastic containers, and it actually fits 12 by 12 cardstock, which I thought would be great for my larger scraps that I'd like to hold on for scrapbooking. And so that's what you see here. I also have an 8x8 pad in here because I don't have any other storage solution for that. So these are just all my larger scraps that I have not put into what I'm calling page kits or pre-arranged bundles of coordinating papers. These should be familiar if you watched my series. This is the little junk journal I made, my technique book, as well as my little healthy journey book. And I thought I would just keep them in here, one to keep everything upright, and the other so that it's conveniently accessible so that I will use and access them. My hope is once I reconfigure my desktop that I can have this on my desk or very close to my desk. So that's what the first part is. And then I put in these large chipboard pieces. They're 12 by 12 or actually even a little bit larger to act as dividers and to provide a little bit of support for the larger sheets of paper. So when I flip this open, I have here separated by 8.5 by 11 paper, aka Janet from RTS Scrapbooking Solution. And basically what I've done is I've taken cardstock that I think will work together for a layout and just group them together so that when I want to do a page, I can come in here and find some of the coordinating scraps already assembled. Or what I've also done when I pull apart a what do they call it? A paper pad. I pulled out a few of the doubles and then just stuck them in here so that I have those ready to go as an alternate page. Then back here, let me see if I can tilt this. Back here, I have my base pages or pages that I've started that just need a photo. So you can see right there. They're all a little bit different. Like this one's pretty generic, so I've got a lot of flexibility with it. But this one here, I only have a space for a 4x6 photo. Same with this one. But that doesn't mean I can't change my mind and add some smaller photos on the side. It just gives me a starting point. So that's what that section is. And then back here, I decided to put any papers I have, let me see, that are very project specific that I haven't started yet, but I don't want to lose it in my stash. And then the next section are my completed pages that just need to be filed away. And I used to be really good about putting them in order when I worked chronologically, but now that I work based on whatever inspires me, I seem to have these pages accumulate and I want to keep them safe. So I think sandwiched between two chipboard in this basket will be helpful as opposed to just having them lie flat somewhere in my craft room, and which runs the risk of, you know, the edges getting bent, etc. So that is my large scrapbook paper scraps. Okay, now what did I do with my basic cardstock? So I have two containers here. So this is considerably less than what I had before. It used to take up the full level of a Razcog cart. But what I opted to do is I opted to pre-cut a lot of basic shapes and stuff, especially in my neutrals. So pretty much most of my neutrals are in this container here. You'll see like I've pre-cut a bunch of stitched circles, and as well as from the colored cardstock. I've got circles, I've got squares, I've got a few banner shapes. I have a lot of rectangles. I left these long strips, some of them as is, because they make great sentiment strips, and really it's just a matter of stamping on them and trimming them. But I also did cut out some banner shapes so that I have those ready to go. The smaller scraps that I had also die cut into label shapes, etc. And I just have them here in a bin that I can just filter through, find one that works, and use on my project. I haven't done this before, but I know I'm a lazy scrapbooker, and so what ends up happening is I love the idea of these dies, but because it's usually one more step, I don't bother to pull them out. I just stamp on cardstock or strip or whatever and trim it out as a rectangle, or I stamp directly on my card. So I'm hoping that by having them pre-die cut that that will encourage me to use those. So these are actually going to go back in the Raskog, and I will show you that shortly. But basically I eliminated a second level. It was all the stuff that I used for my budget crafting, and I moved that into one of my Alex drawers. So my Alex unit drawers. So anyways, I'm going to go and put these back, and then I'll show you the last thing that I did with my patterned cardstock scraps. Okay, so once everything was done, I still had a few pattern paper scraps that I wanted to keep, either because I liked the size or I liked the pattern. And so I have here a few that are just kind of loose, and I opted not to do the solution I'm going to show you for the other ones just because there's so few of them, and I'm hoping to use these sooner rather than later. This pile here, well, let's just say after I did all of this and I did a little bit of cleaning in my craft room, I found a whole other stack. A lot of these are Christmas related, and some of them are my most favorite patterns. Oh, you can see that from Stampin' Up, and I have quite a few of them, and I won't get rid of them because I absolutely love the pattern. So I'm going to put these into a little book like I did these. So let me just show you what I have here. Now, this is not my idea. I saw it on RTS. I think she does the same sort of thing, and I've seen other people do it. Now, this is not like serious bookbinding here, right? Like, this is just meant to be a solution to hold these so that you can flip through them. So what I did was I found a similar width, and I grouped my papers so that they go in length, descending length order or ascending length order, however you want to look at it. I aligned them on one edge. I took some chipboard, scrap chipboard pieces I had and made a cover front and back that fit the biggest size. Then I took some duct tape. Now, if I had some of that pretty duct tape out there, I would have used that, but I just had the plain Jane gray. And basically, I lined these as closely as I could, held them as tight as I could, and then just applied the duct tape. And then using a bone folder, I just went over this really, really well to hopefully get every single sheet of paper adhered to the duct tape. So the idea, of course, is that now I have a little paper pad book that I can flip through, and when I need or find a piece that I like, I can just rip it out. Now, I suspect as time goes on, of course, this is going to get really wobbly as I use up the paper. But you know what? It was a little piece of a duct tape, which you can get a roll at the Dollar Tree for $1. So if I had to rebind it again, that's what I would do. But what I like about this is that my cardstock is not buried in, or my pattern cardstock is not buried in with my solids, and I can easily, quickly flip through. Now, I did try and coordinate these somewhat if I had cardstocks that I thought went together. So let me see if I can find an example of that. So for instance, here, oh, see, and it just falls out just that easily. So for instance, here I have this paper and this paper right next to each other, so that if I'm making a card, you know, they're there. Now, if they fall out, that's okay. Again, it's just meant to be more of a tool for me to store and be able to access these. I don't know if I will like this, because as I said, I'm trying it for the first time, but I like the idea of it. So If all else fails, I could always put a rubber band around this just to hold it in place. So that's that one. And then this one is a smaller one, and it's got my border strips for cards. These are 5.5 inch wide. I thought about getting rid of them, but you know what? It's one of my go-to designs to have one of these border strips on a card, so I did opt to hold on to them. I'm going to show you what the Raskog looks like and talk to you about what changes I made. Okay, so here is my new configuration for my one Raskog. Up in the top here, I put in one of these units from IKEA. It's like a cardboard holder. It fits 12 by 12 paper in the back, and then it's got like 2 dividers here, and then I think it's 4 here. And what you're seeing here is all my products I have pulled for my South America album. And this is what I like to do if I'm working on a project, is have everything pulled and either in a bin or some sort of tool to hold everything. And I think this will work really well to have it in the Raskog, so this is not sitting on my desk, but I can have it pulled up right next to me and work on my project. So this used to be the top one was where all the scraps were stored. So that has been replaced with this. I also, in the back here, I added my 12 by 12 chipboard. I don't have a ton of it, but I find where I had it stored before on the bookshelf was just too far away and I would forget about it and not use it. So the second shelf here and the third shelf used to be where I would store what I call my budget crafting supplies. So things that I buy at the Dollar Tree. So when I do a video that features using Dollar Tree products, I like to keep those separate. So I moved those over into one of my Alex drawers and just reconfigured a few things there to make that work. And so what you see here are those 2 bins of scraps, and then there's those little booklets I created. And then I have 3 little bins here. I don't know if they're gonna stay, but I used to have these on my desk, and again I'm just trying to clear my desk off a little bit so I have some more space to work. I don't know if that's gonna work or not, but anyways, I have those 3 bins. It fits perfectly, so if nothing else, I'll just reconfigure what's in there. And then the final shelf, I have a bin full of like journaling type cards and stuff for primarily for junk journaling, not so much for scrapbooking. And then I have an adhesive bin back there with some different glues and dimensional, and then I put my Sharpie markers right there for now, and you can see I still got a little bit of room. So that, my friends, is the wrap up of my Use Your Scrap series. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you tackled some of your scraps and used some of them up. It's obviously a never-ending process because the more we create, the more scraps we generate. But I feel really good about what I've accomplished, and I hope you do too. So until next time, happy crafting.